Well, hi everyone, Lisa Tumby here at Pushing the Limits. Today I have a superstar in the world of science for you, the world's most foremost leader in vitamin E research and specifically in tocotrienols and something called GG, which we're going to get into. I have the lovely Dr. Barrie Tan with me. Dr. Tan, thank you so much for joining us today. It's so cool to have you.
And thank you for inviting me. I always have a love affair with New Zealand, so this is always a pleasure when somebody from New Zealand call me to interview. So glad to be on your show.
Yes, Dr. Tan, you're going to talk to us about vitamin E and your background, but can you just give us an introduction as to how did you come to be in the tocotrienol research area and vitamin E research area, and your story about South America and that wonderful plant that you've got in the background?
Well, I'll try to make this thing more abbreviated. I've always been interested in vitamins that are lipid soluble. I think it's just in my blood. I appreciate, I take vitamin C that is water soluble, B vitamin is water soluble, but it fascinates me to study lipid soluble vitamin like that. If it is vitamin A, you couldn't take too much because you can accumulate, have toxicity, and people love vitamin D because it's good for the bone like that. And now it's very hot potato. Everybody talk about vitamin K because it's good for, besides clotting, also for the bone. But vitamin E is almost a forgotten thing. Vitamin E was first discovered because of tocopherol, and most people know it's an antioxidant. At the same time, most people do not know that vitamin E alpha tocopherol is known as a vitamin not because of its antioxidant, but because it brings the fetus to full term. That's it. So it's actually a birth vitamin like that. And besides being a birth vitamin, and then people harp on the antioxidant thing. And if you remember in the 1990s, most of the published study, vitamin E failed. So, and I want to address it because sometimes it bottle up and people want to, if you Google, you're going to see vitamin E fail. It failed because the vitamin E that those huge amount of is alpha tocopherol 1, just the magic bullet. And they use synthetic vitamin E. So therefore it's not, it's half counterfeit vitamin E and it's only alpha tocopherol. So then when I started my career at University of Massachusetts, where I was an assistant professor in 1982, it's a while back. So when I started there, so I'm an old guy, but blessed be to God. And I'm still very mentally active, a lot of research like that. But when I was there, I was curious in studying vegetable oil. And vegetable oil is where vitamin E resides. So when I started to look at different vegetable oil, I found that, when I look at the vitamin E, it's not only alpha tocopherol. It had a few other tocopherol, lesser known ones, and then they have the 4 Greek letters, alpha, beta, delta, and gamma tocopherol, and even lesser known is alpha, beta, delta, gamma tocotrienol. And then somehow the tocotrienol have a shorter tail. Here's the structure. So if the audience want to know, here's the structure of tocotrienol. I can only hold this, and the reason it's called tocotrienol, you see, there is a double bond here. 1, 2, 3. So triene is 3 double bond, and the antioxidant OH group is here. This happened to be a delta tocotrienol, but if it is a tocopherol, the 3 double bond disappeared. So one can say a tocopherol.
So Dr. Tan is showing us an actual molecule, so you'll have to go and watch the video if you're on the podcast. Just so.
Thank you. So a tocopherol, the tail will be saturated. A tocotrienol, the tail is not saturated. So I was really fascinated to try to find out if you have an unsaturated tail that this wonderful plant makes, does it do something that is differential to tocopherol? I wasn't the first one to discover this, so I wanted to say there was a professor at the time in University of Wisconsin-Madison, and he first reported that tocotrienol have the first differentiated property from tocopherol. So now it's different. Antioxidant, they both are. But then the differentiated property, to make the message shorter, would be it works on chronic condition. Afterward, you can ask me what chronic condition. So it's work on chronic condition. So that launched me to a professional career to study this lesser known vitamin E tocotrienol. I first discovered this in palm, and then I discovered this in rice, and finally I discovered in the picture here from Anatto. If the audience ever wonder what Anatto is, not a strange, funny plant that nobody come in contact with. If you go to a supermarket, you buy a hunk of cheese, and the cheese would be kind of light yellow, orangey color. That color is the color of Anatto. Just look at the Anatto color. They use it to make the colors look beautiful. And in the West, we have cream cheese. You know, sorry, not cream cheese. Sorry, macaroni and cheese.
Oh yeah,
you see that color like that? Or sometimes they put it in chips. And in Asian thing, they put it to standardize the color of curry. Many things, but usually it's a sanitized version of use. But for me, I knew the color was Anatto, but hidden behind the Anatto color, I'll show you a beautiful picture. This is a beautiful picture of it. If you pretend from this, I scratch it.
Yeah,
it
so you've got to
stains
go
the
and
paper.
watch it on the YouTube. Yeah.
Yeah, and then from this wonderful color is a carotene. And carotene normally are very, very unstable. So if the audience find, well, Dr. Tan, it doesn't stick with my understanding. You know, beta carotene in carrot, that's kind of stable. You can blanch and cook it. You don't destroy it so easily. And so is a lycopene in tomato. Good question. No question asked me a dumb question. They're good question. But those beta carotene in and lycopene in carrot and tomato, they're inside the cell in the cytoplasm. So you really have to cook it for a long time before you can destroy it. Otherwise, if you cook it lightly, you can see the oil become yellowish orange color. You leach out a little bit, but otherwise they stay good. So that to tell you, most carotene made by the plant, they're inside the cell. Not so with the Anatto, because you touch it, it stains your hand. So it's not inside any cell. So because it stains the hand, I intuitively thought there must be an antioxidant that protect the color. Otherwise, the color will disappear no time. So, you know, that was just a fateful question I asked. Blessed in me that I just figured it out. I asked that fateful question. I tested. When I took it home to test it, I was expecting it to be polyphenol. There are many polyphenols that are potent antioxidant, but it wasn't a polyphenol. It turned out to be a vitamin E, and it turned out to be a vitamin E that does not contain tocopherol. And most of all, it turned out to be a vitamin E. It only contained tocotrienol. Then
Which is important.
Oh, which is important. Then I said, if that is the case, I better go figure it out. I immediately called the professor in University of Wisconsin. Hey, I got this thing. What do you think? And then I remember he told me, he said, Barrie, if tocotrienol ever were to mitigate chronic condition in human, your Anatto tocotrienol better do the job. If it isn't, then all our research is lost. I was merely 30 years old at that time, 35 years old. So I begged Professor Kurashi, can you please do some clinical study and shore up if it works or not? So he willing to. He said, well, you go figure out how to extract this. I'll go to do the study. And then another 10 years passed. You know, clinical studies are not easy to do. They take time. So he did. And then today, I can report to you, we have done 20 to 25 clinical trials. It's insane amount of clinical trial, but I'll just give you the shorthand. All chronic condition. We try on people with high lipids, dyslipidemia, triglyceride, cholesterol. We tried it on people with metabolic syndrome. They're pre-diabetic people. And we try it on people who are frank diabetic. They have high sugar. They need to be addressed. And then we try it on people with fatty liver disease.
Yeah,
Many people today have fatty liver disease. So we did on that too. And all these studies that I mentioned to you published. And the last one we are doing, not yet published, we're trying it on all chronic condition. Do not think hard on it. The last one is on men and women who have obesity. Because when they carry so much weight, it's a huge inflammatory concern like that. So we're doing 5. So far, with the exception of the last one, all the other published studies show that tocotrienol and not tocopherol mitigate inflammation, severity of the disease, help some of them to lose weight, lower the metabolic syndrome, meaning lower the triglyceride, lower the cholesterol, and lower the sugar, increase the insulin sensitivity. I'm just giving you shorthand like that. And we have about 6 to 8 separate to this. There's a sixth one. We have about 6 to 8 clinical study on people with cancer. What we cannot study all kinds of cancer. The cancer we studying are pancreatic cancer, lung, breast, colon, and ovarian cancer.
Okay.
And you know, I never dreamed to discover from this lovely plant here, that the plant yield the secret of this special vitamin E that can do so much. And so we make this in New England. You can go online, you can download. If you see me in person, I would love to give you this an autograph book. If not, you can download the book. It's free of charge. I do that as a labor of love. So a lot of them are described in this book.
It's a wonderful book. You must read it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I love it.
So that is the tocotrienol piece, and all that is different is that the tail of that vitamin E is unsaturated with the 3 double bond, otherwise tocopherol. So when you go online to buy vitamin E, please remember not tocopherol.
No tocopherol, so tocopherol free.
Tocopherol free tocotrienol. Then you see, if you ever email me or come to a website, you can download all the papers. We're doing this. We resist every attempt to sell anything that even sound like snake oil. So we did all the study, document all,
amazing,
and let the public read. So that's
okay.
The
Let me dive. Let me dive into that, because there's so many questions buzzing around in my head.
Yes.
And we've got a company down here, a biotech company, and we're talking to your people about getting some of this, because you at American River Nutrition have the raw product, and then you have some formulators around the world who are using your tocotrienols and your GG, which we'll get into later, and we're hoping to be on that list soon. So we're working on that. So watch the space, people. It might take us a few months, but we'll get there. So but now let's just drill down onto some of those areas, because I mean the cancer research with, you know, my backstory with having a book that I've released recently and going through cancer with mum, I'm very interested in anything that could help and support people who are going through different cancer diagnoses. So can you drill down a little bit into the cancer research? What was the outcomes of some of those studies in the pancreatic, the lung, the breast, the ovarian, and the colon cancers?
And the breast. So those I think we studied 5 cancers like that. Okay.
Yeah.
I will tell you why we even get there to do this. The FDA in the United States is very strict.
Yeah.
They would not allow, and the big C word is a no-no.
Yeah.
But when I did that, I want you to know this. When I did this, I knew from the start I will never get approval from the FDA, because I do not do the study according to the thing. However, sometimes blessing comes many ways. Somehow the Kingdom of Denmark picks this up, and I met the chief oncologist, and he's a famous gentleman, and I sent him papers to read. There were hundreds of papers. If you ever Google tocotrienol and cancer research, there are oodles and oodles of animal study. So it was from the oodles of animal study I decided I got to do clinical trials to see if this work on human. And then, but I don't have the financial means to this. It's very expensive and takes a long time, and I don't have the wherewithal to do this. So I sent this professor some papers to read, and then 6 months later, I thought it's just a by and by, nothing's going to happen. He actually emailed me back, and then 6 months later, he said, "Well, Dr. Tan, I would like to do some studies, clinical trials on cancer." So first, when he said that, it floored me. Then I said, "Well, doctor, you know," I said, "I would love your thing, but you have to understand, I don't have the financial means to do. I have probably the means to do half of one study, never mind several studies like that. Then he's got some very European mannerism, unlike American. That's very loud and this and that. So then he said, well, did I ever ask you for funding? He said, no, you didn't ask. So, but I wasn't expecting people do this without funding. He said that I have secured from Denmark, the government, that they would fund the study, but you have to provide the medicine. So we have to provide the medicine. So I said, okay, and then I asked, just to provide the medicine, it probably, for all the study, it probably costs us no less than $500,000. That's a lot of weight to carry for us. So we said yes, because I could not let go on doing this. So that was about 8 to 10 years ago. This is long time waiting. So what study did we do? So now, from the hundreds of animal study, they decided to do that. He decided what studies to do. I did not. He chose, and actually it favored more women-related cancer than men. No problem with me. I don't have any issues like that. So he studied ovarian cancer, breast cancer, clearly in women, and then for men and women, colon cancer and lung cancer.
Wow.
Did I miss something? Oh,
and pancreatic.
Those are the 4. And pancreatic cancer is done in the US.
Wow.
Like that. So the 4. So of this, he had some of them 2 or 3 studies of the same cancer. So now the good news and the bad news. Okay. In one of the colon cancer study, he did not recruit enough people, or his answer was null, meaning that the one that took tocotrienol and the one that did not fare better, like that. And then some of his study he had to stop because he were not able to recruit enough patients. Remember, sometimes studies fail not because the product doesn't work. It could be, but not because of that. Sometimes they cannot get enough patients, and when you couldn't get enough patients, then you cannot get the statistical significance that you're looking for the work to be published. Otherwise, it get anecdotal. So like that. So 2, 3 did not work or failed to get to the site that he wanted. So the bad news, I told you the bad news. The good news, 2. 1, ovarian cancer. The second one, colon cancer. Ovarian cancer first. In the ovarian cancer, he had a group that first, they are all on stage 4 cancer patients.
All stage 4. Wow.
So,
Okay.
So stage 4 meaning that there are no options available. The cancer have gone everywhere. They cannot operate. They cannot radiate. They can only give them chemo. Just remember the context. So that group take chemo, and another group take chemo and tocotrienol, 900 milligram. That means 300 milligram for breakfast, and then 300 for lunch and 300 for dinner, like that. And then after 12 months, they were not normally expected to live beyond 12 months. They have the registry on it. Remember, stage 4. Keep in mind, stage 4. They're not stage 1 or 2, like that. And then those on tocotrienol, 100% of them, no, sorry, I said it wrong. About 60% still living. And for the other one, almost none of them living. They continued the study through 2 years. And even after 2 years, 25% still living. But after they did the first year, normally the study is supposed to stop, Lisa. Why? Because in the control group, none of them were living.
None of them living.
So if there are none of them living, they don't know what to compare with. But they decided that for those living, they will stretch it for another 2 years, and then 25% still living. So that study was published. If you let us know, we're glad to say. So the second that just published like 6 months ago or less, that was about colon cancer. In the colon cancer, similarly, after 12 months, about almost all the cancer patients survive, and that both the survival after 4 years have also increased for those that are control compared to the one taking tocotrienol. So I think that this is very positive outcome, and we're still waiting for the remaining 4 studies from Denmark. So now let me go to the third one, which is a US study on pancreatic cancer. I have worked with the professor for some time. He started this project about 15 years ago. All of these things take time. And for the audience, pancreatic cancer is probably one of the worst odds. One in 20
totally. It's
survive. So he decided to go on this one, So we gave him the tocotrienol. So he did more classical work. He had to perform surgery to remove the tumor. So he gave people 200 milligram per day dose, and then in another group, 400 milligram, 800 milligram, 1600 milligram, and 3200 milligram.
Wow.
Very high doses like that. So, and for the FDA, he did that. So they call it dose escalation. How high can you dose for which you can elicit a negative response? So the FDA is fishing for a toxic effect because most chemo drugs are toxic. And then for Professor Malafa, he cannot elicit a toxic effect. So the government wanted him to take 6,000 for, and he said that this is off the chart because he saw that at 200 milligram, the lowest dose, he saw apoptosis of the cancer cell, which means the death of the cancer cell. So it's just, but he doesn't know at what dosage is going to be a major kill, but he saw death. He said, we said that we don't believe you need to give to be 6.4 gram. And by the way, at 6.4 gram, most of the tocotrienol will be pooped off anyway because the gut cannot absorb such huge amount. But he argued and the FDA acquiesced and said that the 3.2 grams is fine. So now you fast forward. He'd done 1-2 clinical trial, and right now he's doing a next stage clinical. This is entire American River did not fund this. This is entirely funded by, in the US, National Cancer Institute, NCI, and NCI is part of the National Institute of Health. This is the organization. Even if I have $5-10 million, if I were to give them the money, it is less meaningful to that money coming from the US government, particularly from NCI. So I'm standing back. I'm hoping that I would smile. I'm smiling not because I make money. I'm smiling because a nutrient can work on people. Man, if with that, I will be really happy to retire. It's just wonderful news, So anyway, we have to provide the medicine again. So again, it's going to cost us some money. So we provide. And you know what he did? He's going to use, he decided that the midpoint, sometime it's not like one peak, this is the amount used. When he did it, it go like this. So you have to find what is that point. And when that point is somewhere between 500 to maybe 900. So he decided to choose 800 milligram. And then he said, give them in 2 pills. So 2 pills of 400 milligram with 2 meals. So that is the design of the study. So the design of the study is like that. He will give them for a short period of time. I don't remember how long, maybe 1-2 months like that. After which he will surgically remove. It's very different from the Danish study. They are not stage 4 cancer patients. They may be expected to live. So they surgically remove the tumor. When he removes the tumor, he'll have a cancer cell. Of course, because you're removing the tumor and you have some fresh tissue. So if you give them before and after, he will be able to see if the cancer in the tumor die or not die. He'll have pathologists to score it. He will give people 400 milligram twice a day to do that. That study, it just started, so it probably will take 3-4 years to complete. So, but at least if the audience know, what did he do? 800 milligrams. So is that study, the Danish study, the last 4 probably will complete in the next 12 to 24 months. To me,
so long.
Based on the hundreds and hundreds of animal study and several of those human study, for me, that's good enough for me to take tocotrienol for the prevention. I don't know if the audience know that. We don't need to have frank cancer and frank tumor in our body. We always have circulating
Yeah.
cancer
Every
cell.
day
So
we're making.
because how can your 38 trillion cells in your body are all squeaky clean? There's no such thing, you know. But of course, I understand if they are cancer stem cell, until they take root, they will not express themselves. So, but if, and by the way, for the audience, it has been shown. You Google yourself. If you put tocotrienol and cancer stem cell, tocotrienol stands out again. It
Wow.
actually killed the cancer
The
stem
stem
cell.
cell, which is
Even the stem cell.
biggest problem, because the chemos usually go after the daughter cells, but not the stem cells, and so they come back even stronger afterwards. And this is part of that problem. So that, you know, that it could possibly work on the stem cell is
Yeah.
absolutely amazing. And as a prevention, you know?
And then for in the future, consider interviewing me just on tocotrienol and cancer,
Absolutely.
or tocotrienol and chronic condition, many, you know. But
Yeah.
I know today is what we call appreciating roses on horseback. So you know, it's actually a very good phrase. So let's do that, because I don't want you to miss asking me some question on the GG as well and the MK4. But after we appreciate roses on horseback, you can come back and say, can I interview you on this piece or that piece? And you can ask your audience what they would like to know about. Then I'm at your disposal.
Oh,
you let
amazing.
me know.
You're amazing, because I'd like to do deep dives into many of these things. So there's just so much that I want to get to. So let's do the overview today. But if that piqued your interest, let me know. Reach out to me. Tell me what you want to hear from Dr. Barrie. Now let's go, away from the cancer side of it, and let's look at non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, because this is another huge problem. Non-alcoholic fatty liver, so this is people who not got fatty liver from drinking too much alcohol, but usually too much food and fat over a long period of time. Can you tell us about fatty liver disease and what you've seen with tocotrienol?
Okay, actually what you say is correct. I can even expand further for the audience like that. You know, I came from, and do not hold against me if you're not. I'm just speaking out of my heart. You know, when I was in my New Zealand days, almost 50 years ago, I became a Christian to many lovely friends in New Zealand like that. And I remember there was a narrative that, you know, we abstained from alcohol. And then it was a spiritual comment. Who would have guessed 30, 40 years later that by eating high fat and high carb diet, we can make the liver and destroy the liver exactly as what alcohol can do. Never would have done that. And then you know something? Somehow when it comes to that, nobody said that that is actually bad. So it's actually insidious, you know. By eating high amount of fatty food, we have this non-alcohol fatty liver disease. Another time when you interview me, I can tell you how the story was discovered by Mayo Clinic. So I chose NAFLD because 1 in 3 Americans have NAFLD. That's bad. So when we have a liver that's unsavable, there simply will not be enough liver for liver transplant. It simply will not be available. It's way too much. If you have this number of people have alcoholic fatty liver, you'll have 100 to 500 times more for people with non-alcohol fatty liver. We are simply not gonna. So if we don't take care of our liver, there'll be nothing to save it. Why? Because the liver performs more than 700 biologic functions. There is no mechanical liver. You can have a mechanical heart, but there is no mechanical liver. We have to consider to protect our liver. So fatty liver is this. So having said this, fatty liver cross over with metabolic syndrome, cross over with diabetes, cross over with heart disease. It's just this metabolic funny problem that it cannot be identified to something. So anyway, on the liver. So I decided to go after it. We done 3 clinical study on fatty liver. The first one was a simple 3-month study. The next one was a longer 6-month study. And the third one was a longer 12-month study, the 3-month study. In the 3-month study, we gave people 600 milligrams. So they take 300 milligram pill 2 times a day with a meal. Always take it with a meal because they're oil soluble. So they take 2. And when we did that, we did not know if it worked or not. It was a very a daring step for me to engage time, energy, and money to do this because the liver is the largest organ. And then now they already have fatty liver, and then my little dinkum vitamin E can do this. But I suspect that it was going to do this because this tocotrienol is going to go to the liver and can help to reduce the damage in the liver. So initially I said, okay, how about we do simple things? Does it reduce enzymes spill out into the blood from the liver? Liver enzyme. People measure them, AST, ALT, like that. And then can we measure C-reactive protein inflammation? Very simple test. We did that, and to my surprise, it lowered the ALT, AST, the liver enzyme, approximately 20 to 25%. I said, okay, that's interesting. And then, by the way, something else dropped. I leave it as a cliffhanger and tell you in the last. So we decided, okay, this is encouraging. Let's do a 6-month study. So that 3-month study was finished and published. I would be gladly to send you this. You should interview me. I show you some chart and then show you some figure. Very simple. So I did a 6-month study. So in a 6-month study, we always repeat what we did in the 3-month. So we did the liver enzyme. Now I'm asking deeper question. I just said that. Okay. So now I ask, besides that, do I see fat in the liver egress from the liver, get out of the liver?
Getting rid of the fat.
Get rid of the fat. And also, what about the insulin response? Is the insulin response improved? We noticed that the insulin response improved, and we also saw a sign that the liver had been egressed out of the liver, which is a good thing because it's fatty liver. You want the fat to egress out of the liver like that. So whatever we did in the 3-month, we studied also there. And then the cliffhanger phrase, I'm going to leave end to say, we also saw that again. So now let me tell you, then we decided to do the longer study, 1 year. By the way, to do a 1-year study, it's going to take 2 years, but we did. So after that, I told my R&D director, I cannot do this anymore because it's just way too much time. So I did the 12-month study. In the 12-month study, we have measurement at the beginning, and we repeat the measurement at 6 months. So the 6 months measurement can compare with the 6-month study that I finished. You see that? I always try to compare. And then we look at it at 12 months later. So when we did the 12 months, we asked all the questions we asked before, and everything stacked, meaning the liver enzyme drop, C-reactive protein drop, the egress of the fat drop, blah, blah, blah. All of these things, nothing changed. Everything improved. And in the 6 month, in the 12-month study, we asked an additional question. Did we see scarring tissue reduce? When the fat is too much in the liver cell begin to die and the liver cell begin to have scarring tissue. Scarring tissue is considered the first stage of irreversibility. And if it's irreversible, then this NAFLD will become NASH. NASH will be non-alcoholic steatohepatitis. So now, then when you become NASH, then it's irreversible. So I wanted to see sign and the NAFLD is reversible, and we saw that after 12 months. So now, let me tell you that magic thing that we did not look for that happened. It happened in 3 months, 6 months, and then 12 months.
Yeah, I know this.
And then you would love to hear this like that. We did not expect this. We did not even factor this into our study. So sometimes it's a blessing, you know. Remember, we did not factor this thing. It was such a pleasant and welcome finding. In the 3, 6, and 12 month study, the patient lost weight. The
They
patient
actually
lost it,
lost
and
weight.
they consistently lost 10 to 15 pounds. Now,
Wow. Mm.
now be careful how you say this. If you say that if it's a weight loss product, then the audience is going to expect that this has happened between 2 to 4 weeks. We
Yeah,
don't have
it's not.
data at 2 to 4 weeks. The first data was at 3 months. However, we can say this. The weight loss at 3, 6, and 12 months is sustainable, and then they persist. So, and then like my mother-in-law said, what is there not to like? If a person have fatty liver and they lost weight, it cannot be, but it would be a nice added outcome that we did
Heck
not
yes.
anticipate.
Yeah,
So
and
this
people
is
with
this,
metabolic syndrome need to lose
yeah,
weight.
for sure,
Like
for
this is
sure, for sure. So
definitely all of these things go together.
yeah, well, thank you for asking. That is such a sweet. I spent 5 years of my life conduct and doing that study, so it
Wow.
was a very treasurable thing. And that, for me, that is just such a blessing. Of course, the study can go any direction. And then when we saw the drop, actually the drop is systematic. So there's a trend.
Wow.
I would love to show you this. If you
Yep.
if you
Yeah,
interview me, if I do a PowerPoint presentation, love to do this. And then
let's do
and
a
then
whole
the audience
series, Dr.
decide
Ted.
for themselves. So, well, thank you so much for asking about the fatty liver.
Oh no, I definitely wanted to talk about that, and the weight loss is this wonderful byproduct of that. That's for it, and so many people are dealing with prediabetes, diabetes, fatty liver disease, metabolic syndrome, insulin resistance, and they all go together, as you say. So when I think 85% of the whole population in America, at least the statistics that I know, or some huge number anyway, have metabolic syndrome, have this, and this is at early death, basically. Like you are heading towards aging in a less good manner, and the downsides of all of that. So this is huge, and like you
Yeah, it
say,
is. It is New Zealand and Australia also have this kind of similar
yeah,
trend, or,
yeah,
or
yeah.
is
Oh,
very different from?
absolutely. Yeah, and certain, there's genetic stuff as well, like the Maori and the Polynesian populations tend to have more metabolic syndromes and diabetes and that type of thing because we're genetically programmed that way. That there's more, the bigger people, more growth factors, more genetic predispositions towards these things. So yes, it's a big problem here as well,
You know,
and
if
worldwide.
on that one, right? I know people have genetic disposition. I know American of Indian
Yeah,
descent,
yeah.
they have that, and they have a predisposition of diabetes, and also a particular a Native American tribe called Pima Indian. You can Google this, and the U.S. government have studied them. They're very high rate of diabetes.
Continue on. So, are there any areas in the tocotrienol story? I did want you to explain that the tocopherols versus the tocotrienols. The tocopherol has a much longer tail on the actual molecule, and that embeds deeper into the membrane of the cell, and therefore doesn't spin around and collect antioxidants as fast as the tocotrienols do. And the tocopherols also interfere with the function of the tocotrienol. So you do not want to have above what's in your normal everyday food. You don't want to be supplementing with tocopherols because it will
Yes,
interfere with your tocotrienols.
actually, the way you said it, Lisa, is perfect. It's like that. But so you asked two questions. One would be, if this is a cell, it's just a bottle of water, a cell like that, and around the cell is a cell wall, and the cell wall encapsulates the cell with all the content inside. And the vitamin E normally is on the cell wall, not inside the cell. And the tocopherol tail is longer,
Yep.
so it anchors deeper into it. It does go around the cell, and then when the free radical come, it captures the free radical. And then the tocotrienol, the tail is shorter, so it anchors less deeply, so it flies around about 50 times faster. This was first shown at University of California in Berkeley by the then famous professor, he passed away, by Professor Lester Packer. If you Google his name, Lester, Lester, Packer, Packer, probably 1997. He published this, and he clearly is able to capture the tocotrienol, able to fly around 50 times faster.
Wow.
Basically, tocopherol and tocotrienol are the police to capture the bad guys.
Yeah. The free
Just
radicals.
that the tocotrienol can capture the bad guys, free radical, faster. So if you use a metaphor in the US, a police is in the same town. The police does not go outside town. You may not have something similar in New Zealand, but in the US, the state trooper runs the whole gamut of the
Yeah.
state.
You
So
can go right across.
I can think of a tocopherol like a local policeman, only in a small circumscribe of that town. And Massachusetts, where I live, could have 10,000 towns. But a state trooper circled the entire state, so he captured all the bad guys of all the 10,000 towns, but not so the police is in the same town, you know. But of course, someday I'm going to come up with something. They are neither the police nor the state trooper, but they'll be the FBI agent, and then they will circulate the whole country. but that's good enough. But that metaphor always works. I'm sure you have something similar. Where in New Zealand you have the local Bobby, and then you have other people that runs the
that
entire
are running the whole
country.
national. And so this is important from the antioxidant perspective, that it's really having an effect. As a very, very powerful antioxidants, and we need to suck up our free radicals when we've got too many, which most of us have too many. So this is a really important piece of that.
Yeah, and let me answer your second question you asked, but then I forgot it. Would be the tocopherol interferes with the function of tocotrienol.
This is important.
That is a little bit more sophisticated. So if the audience can just bear with me, there is a general construct in our world, because we are holistic, and my wife and I holistic. If I'm not holistic, I won't be looking at all these plants. I know plants make things that are good for us, like that. In the holistic thinking, there is a running thread that say that if you make a drug which is one compound, then the one compound is allopathic. It does a certain thing. It probably comes with side effect.
Yeah.
If you get it from a plant, it not only make one compound, it'll make a mixture of different compounds. Then the mixture of different compound will do synergistic thing, something like. So therefore, they introduce the word synergism. I don't have problem with that, but I'm going to tell you this. If we believe there is possibility in the plant kingdom of synergism, then you cannot dismiss antagonism. I'm introduced it like that. So if most of the time they are synergistic, but if they were to be antagonistic, we need to know about that. So this is one of those examples. So when we first discovered it, tocopherol and tocotrienol, they all the plant mixed them. And when we did, we simply thought that we were studying the tocotrienol and the tocopherol would be innocuous. It's just there, doesn't do anything bad. So when we did, then we found out that, about half the study works and half the study did not work. Then what's going on, We couldn't figure it out. So then we have to go back to the drawing board again to figure out what exactly. So we said, all right, how about we didn't know what was going on. So we removed the tocopherol. And then we just do just the tocopherol. It worked like 5-10%, nothing to write home about. And then the tocotrienol, they work like 100%, 200%, a lot to write home about. I assume that in New Zealand you use the same metaphor, right? Something to write that. So now, then we thought, all right, we combine the two. We actually did it in the lab. We combined the two together. Said, wait a minute. So now I use this amount of tocotrienol. We first did it on animals that have high cholesterol. Later we did it on cancer. It's pretty eye-opening. We used this amount of tocotrienol. It clearly lowered the cholesterol. In another study, it clearly killed the cancer. It is the same amount. Then I introduced this amount of tocopherol. I just mix it. When I did, and then the ability to kill the cancer cell, lowering cholesterol, it lower less. it killed the cancer less.
Wow.
And then in another study, I increased the tocopherol more, and then it reduced the ability even more. And when it get to not even half tocopherol and half tocotrienol, the tocopherol at half the amount render incapacitate, I'll say that,
Wow.
incapacitate the active tocotrienol to be useless. Then I said, wait a minute. So a simplistic way to understand that is the tocopherol become antagonistic to the function of tocotrienol.
Yep.
If
Beautiful.
you don't believe me, I would love to send you all those studies. I've said this to other people.
Yeah.
I have people almost like they throw shoes at me, whatever. But I'm just trying to get some answer. And then people thought that I was just monkeying around, trying to do marketing. I said, "What are you talking about? I'm trying to do the study to see if it antagonizes or not. If it is, why am I telling the audience to do this? It's not going to help them. If it's not going to help them, why are you selling things that is not going to help people? It's
Yeah,
not
and this
right."
is in so many of the formulations where you get vitamin E, you'll see it proudly put on the thing, alpha
Yeah,
tocopherol, or a mixture of
yeah.
alpha tocopherol with
And then
tocotrienols. That's not
if you
good.
go
Throw those
online,
ones out.
if you go online, 90% of the vitamin E product are tocopherol.
Yeah.
Only 10% are tocotrienol. So you go online and buy the tocotrienol and make sure it say Anatto tocotrienol, one
Anatto.
from this plant, Anatto. And then if you want to be sure that it come from us, we trademark it. Some people use the trade, most people do. Make sure the word Delta Gold,
Delta
because
Gold.
Delta
That's
tocotrienol
what
like
we're
that.
gonna get off you
And
guys.
one of the guys will send it to you like that. So, but if the audience says, "Wow, Dr. Tan, you only gave us one example. Is there any other thing that you don't make whereby nature makes something and that is antagonistic?" Because most of nature thing is synergistic. I'll give you one example that we have nothing to do with. Most the audience know about beta carotene.
Yeah.
Beta carotene, if you eat carrot, you have beta carotene, it converts to vitamin A, good for eyesight, good for your body, or beta carotene. All good. Then about 20 years ago, people start to hear about lutein. Lutein is good for the eye, macular degeneration, filter the blue light. So when we grow old, we don't have macular degeneration, all the wonderful stuff like it protect the retina like that. So that's lutein and zeaxanthin. I'm sure the audience know about it. And you take lutein for all these wonderful things. But do you know, if you take lutein with beta carotene will interfere with the absorption of lutein.
No, I didn't
So
know
it
that.
actually like that, and Googled it. The
Wow.
professor who discussed, I had nothing to do with it. I just read it. Phyllis. Thank you. Her name is Phyllis Bowen. PhyllisBowen. Professor Bowen was from University of Illinois in Chicago.
Yep.
She did the study and discovered this. And ever since then, when I get a chance, I ask people, it is wonderful to take beta carotene. It's wonderful to take lutein, but please don't take them together. So if you just take lutein for the eye, which is a good thing, just take lutein and zeaxanthin like that. So here I gave you another example. So they may be carotene may be part of the same family. So not all the time they are synergistic. But how I'll say like this: 95% of the time, plant material in a mixture they're synergistic. But
It's a
if they are not, we should let other people know. And then the vitamin E is a class of compound like that, and the carotene is another class of compound. They probably are more, but we have to decipher. So right now, I don't know
sulforaphane and vitamin C is another one. Like, well, at least there's one scientist who says that they should be taken separately or not if you're on sulforaphane, because it interferes, because the sulforaphane upregulates the NRF2 pathway in your endogenous glutathione production and your ability to make your own antioxidants. And if you take vitamin C and she says actually A and E, when I remember, that will inhibit the signaling and cause problems with the upregulation. That's Dr. Christine Horton. I've had a big debate in my head about whether that is correct, and tried to talk to a number of other people, because I'm a big fan of vitamin C and I'm a big fan of sulforaphane. Now I've got this dilemma: when do I take what? You know, how far do they have to be? And she said,
let me read
"But
about
take
that.
it."
Now that you mentioned, if you have a paper or two you can send to me, I'll take a read. And if I find something interesting that they are really interfering, I can let you know.
Okay, because there's a
But not
dilemma for me at the
okay.
moment.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
thank you so much for letting me know. Anyway, I answered that question. Do you have
Yeah.
any more question on
So
tocotrienol? Leave some time to ask me about the GG
yeah, we
and
need to
the
get to the
metoquinone,
GG.
okay?
We need, yeah, and the metaquinone 4. So we'll come back and do another whole session on tocotrienols and probably the
Sure.
cancer story or something. But
Hmm.
do tocotrienols, just the last question, do they lower cholesterol?
Yes. It does not lower cholesterol as powerfully as the statin drugs that most of the audience probably know when your doctor prescribes statin drug to lower cholesterol, but it does. So there even a study where they titrate, lower the dose of the statin and then put in tocotrienol. They seem to be synergistic. Like if you add statin drug, it lower 20%. And if you take tocotrienol, it lower another 10%, something like that. But
Yeah.
I'm not a physician, so you have to talk to your physician about that. So they are additive like that, but it does. In fact, the reason for tocotrienol lowering cholesterol was the first discovery of vitamin E. Tocotrienol have differentiated property from tocopherol, where the cancer part, only tocotrienol is known to kill cancer. I have not heard of tocopherol able to do something like that.
Yeah. Okay. Wonderful,
All right.
Dr. Tan. Thank you so
All
much
right
for your
then.
time today. It's been absolutely
Yeah.
amazing. Thank you.
And